David Harkin, you're the CEO and founder of 8 Billion Ideas. I love that name, by the way. A company teaching students what you describe as the critical curriculum, which is entrepreneurship, future skills, career education, performance, and well-being. You've impacted over 500,000 students in 26 countries, and I suspect you're only just getting started. Thank you so much for joining me on Decoding Calm in 15 minutes.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm also a dad, an educationist, a CEO, husband, all of the above as well. But yeah, absolute pleasure to be here.
Many
Thank you very much
hats,
for having me.
many hats.
Many hats indeed. I was talking to my wife last week about should we have hats in the house? Which one are we wearing today, or which
Literal
one are we
hats.
wearing at any given moment, and just flipping
Yeah.
the hats around.
So let me start by taking you back. We're gonna do this. I've called it Decoding Calm 15 minutes ish. So it's fairly snappy, short podcast.
Yeah.
Let's start by bringing you back, David. When you were young, did you always have ambitions to be, say, CEO? Did you always want to be a leader? Did you always want to have a kind of high pressure job?
I always just wanted to make an impact. I
Yeah,
remember being about 8 or 9, and I said to my mum, I want to go into big business. I want to go into politics maybe one day. I want to
oh,
write. I
really?
just always just wanted to do something which made a difference.
Yeah.
That's what I remember. I was second child of four. So you're in that sibling relationship and competitive house at times, big into my sport as well. So I always remember being driven. I always remember driven. I don't think I sat around and said I'm going to be a CEO and entrepreneur and give me all that stress later down in 20, 30, 40 years later. But I just remember being a driven child and student at school.
Right. And did the thought of leading people or being in charge, did that intimidate you as a youngster or not particularly?
Not really. I think I see a lot of that kind of early leadership skills you progressed on the sports field. Like I was never content just being part of a team. I wanted
Okay.
to be the leader of a team or be the captain of the football, rugby, cricket, or whatever it might be. And then I think it just came in, it kind of genuinely came in my DNA. And then as I kind of moved to university into the world of work, it was never, for me personally, it was never enough of just being part of the team. I wanted to lead a team, really learn my people skills, get the best out of people on a day-to-day basis. So I can't ever remember never not wanting to lead a business or lead a team. It was just always part of me.
Right. Would you say, this is a big question for early on, but would you say your jobs found you rather than you found it, your current one?
I when I talk to students and I talk to people and they say, what jobs have you done to where you get to? I look at the key lessons that I've learned. I say that I was the best washer upper in my village because my first job was washing up in a pub and I learned a hell of a lot from being in that pub from 13 to 18 in terms of how an enterprise runs. I
Yeah.
was the best barman in Sheffield. I worked behind the bar when I was at Sheffield University. Learned a lot of soft skills in terms of talking to people, communicating, and then I founded my kind of career in IBM. So those kind of three jobs. So there you go, washing up, bartender. Then I was in IBM and just an amazing organization at the time for me. Some great people managers around there got the best out of me. And I guess when I was always looking for work. I remember making sure that I wanted that job out of university afterwards, and then moving into becoming an entrepreneur in the education space in my kind of late 20s. I had that kind of itch to kind of move out. So I think I've always had this kind of destiny and this kind of journey that I'm gradually carving. And I've got that inner frustration sometimes to go quicker and make it happen now. But I've begun to learn sometimes that good ideas can become bad ideas if you rush them. Sometimes you do need to slow down the pace a little bit and that you will get to wherever you're meant to be in due course. It doesn't always have to happen right now, today, this month, this quarter.
Yeah. That's key, isn't it? It's such an important lesson to learn. I was listening to something online. I assume it's a famous story, but I actually heard it for the first time the other day. There's a guy, it's the sort of parable about two lumberjacks cutting wood, and they both start at the same time and they both finish at the same time. One of them disappears for an hour around lunchtime, and they both cut the same amount of wood. And so
Mm.
the one who's working solid through the day, after a while, he says to the guy who's taking the hour long break, he says, I'm working an hour longer than you every day, but you're cutting the same amount of wood as me. Where'd you go when you're doing that hour? And he says, I'll go and sharpen my equipment, go and sharpen the axe. And we've stopped sharpening our axe, I think, haven't we? I remember when I started at IBM, you and I both were at IBM, we didn't know each other there, but um, I can remember gradually working more and more and dropping things like breaks, lunch breaks. So by the end, I would go down to the canteen, get my lunch in the box, and go back up and carry on working. And I think that's almost a metaphor for how business has changed in the 90s and the 2000s as we went through. And people being busy became more of a badge of honor. The internet exploded. We could do things at home. We had our mobile phones with our email on it. Everything became more hectic. So I think it's a bigger challenge than ever now. Would you agree with this? It's a bigger challenge than ever now to try to switch off, to try to step away and to
Yeah.
sharpen your axe, so to speak.
Yeah, I like that story. So I talk about being brilliantly busy. So I
Yeah.
think we're busy for busy's sake, and you want to be brilliantly busy doing what you're doing. That's a slight shift in mindset as well. I think the second thing there is I've always had a real appreciation for time and seeing that maybe that's where I can get how I operate is where I get my edge. So I remember having a great sales manager early in my career saying there's only 252 selling days in a year. You minus your holidays, you minus the bank holidays, blah, 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 blah. Make sure you use every single day. And that meant I had a mentality of like, can I do a month's work in a week and a week's work in a day? That was always my piece about making sure I'm utilizing my time. So maybe over 10 years, I achieve 30, 40 years work compared to my peers. That's not always healthy, right? Because it means that you can push yourself to too much in terms of levels. So now
Yeah.
but equally you want to use that urgency in your life. You want to use that. Now I think the third thing that I'm just trying to get to is okay, I've got that control of time. I'm doing more than my peers or competitors in that particular time. How do I bring and make sure while I'm working, I have high energy and good energy, good ripples, and that comes into what I try to do in terms of working on my own attitude. So I often say to people, the biggest thing that you can bring into any organization is a positive attitude, and but nobody ever works on it. They never say I'm working on this or working on, they always say I'm working on my communication skills, like Steve, or I want to do leadership, I want to do X, Y, and Z. People don't turn around and go, do you know what, Steve? I want to work on my attitude because I know my attitude, my mentality, my mindset is actually the most important thing I can bring into my business, into my family, to my friendship people, whatever it might be. And so that's a really interesting topic when you go, well, okay, how are you going to bring a great attitude into work every single day? Well, you need to start thinking about how you're sleeping, how you're thinking, how you're eating, the mindfulness, all those little small micro doses of impact, right? They're the
Yeah.
things we control.
Yeah.
You're going to bring that great attitude and make great ripples at work.
Yeah. Such a good point. I think it all starts with self-awareness.
Yeah.
If I think about the greatest leaders I've been around, they all have a level of self-awareness. There's nothing worse than a leader where you're on eggshells. And some days they treat you brilliantly and they're the most amazing person to work for. And some days you're sitting in your seat like, oh God, what's happened
Yeah.
to them because they're horrendous today. And I think self-awareness is the antidote to that. If you can be aware of your own stress levels and have enough emotional intelligence, if you want to use those words, to have a space between what's happening for you in any given moment, whether it's a strong sense of urge, of anger or frustration or irritation or and what happens next, that's such an amazing thing at work and at home. This guy, Sam Harris, I don't know if you heard of Guy Sam Harris. He's a author and neuroscientist in the US, does some great podcasts and books. And he's got a mindfulness app called Waking Up. And he talks about this. He talks about being the angry guy. Don't be the angry guy in the office that just got fired again, that nobody wants to work around and be with. So, yeah, can completely relate to that. What's the highest stakes situation you've been in, David? You can interpret this however you want, whether it's something on the sports field or at home or at work. But the highest stakes situation you've been in, and crucially, how did you get through it?
Well, that's an easy one for me because managing a business through COVID and creating a new business post COVID has brought some of the hardest moments of my life, and then some of the best moments of life around it because then that is combined with starting and building a family, the kind of the pieces around it. So um, for those who do not know, effectively, I'm in the education space, and pre-COVID was running a services company, small services company. But within 2 weeks, lost £250,000 for a 10-person organization. And you go to new levels of stress when you're running a payroll and you've got the whole world and business looking at you in a short space of time, like literally cash and money being taken in subscription, all that stuff happening overnight, your pipeline gone, and you've got the same pressures of everybody else in terms of what's going on in the world. And then recovering through that, we then decided to build a new business in the tech space in education. and we closed a private equity deal, which was the largest private equity deal, about $1 million in January 2021. That collapsed in the week that we launched, that the money never came forward. So we had to raise, actually, quarter of a million, seems to be, we had to raise £250,000 in 5 days even make 8 billion ideas, which is the business I'm the CEO today, possible. The reason why I say that, and you talk to business owners and entrepreneurs, there's 1,000 microdoses of stress that you learn you have to handle. It's emotional endurance, really. That's the big difference when you're growing a business, is that emotional endurance, which you just have to learn a way of understanding. But those two, from a business perspective, like, the stakes were really high. You've got people who are scared in COVID, who've got their own families and their mortgages to go, and then you've committed when you're building effectively an ed tech company, and then suddenly the cash which you're expecting from your PE firm just never arrives, and then you've got a hell of a lot of responsibility. That's when the heart goes to a new level in terms of pumping. So, but I've often find, like, I know where to get the energy from in those big moments. I sometimes simplify it, get the pad and pen out, work out what to do, and just find a way going forward. So there's been many, many, many more. You can imagine having 3 kids around that as well. You can imagine health scares with, close family members, and you have to. I think the saying I ended up doing is just do the next thing well, right? When the world is getting very heavy on your shoulders, all you can do is go for a walk, go for a run, take a fresh air, whatever it might be, and go, what can I do next? Which is
Yeah.
just going to reduce this a little bit, and then have that same philosophy and try and weather the storm.
Yeah. That's kind of a description of mindfulness, I guess, isn't it? Where let's forget the past just for a second. Let's forget the future just for a second. And just this moment, what can I do right now, this second? What phone
Mm.
call can I make this moment? And try not to get too far ahead. And certainly I go straight into stress. As soon as I leave the present moment, certainly if I jump into the future, often it's a stressful, it can be an excited state. But if it's a stressful state, it's a very stressful state because you can't do anything about it in that moment. You can't jump to 3 days' time and do something that you don't even know whether it's going to happen or not. It's that famous Mark Twain quote. I spent most of my life worrying about things, most of which never happened.
Mm.
And I think the more you can be focused, just this, what can I do right now, this second? And it sounds like you're really oversimplifying it, doesn't it? It sounds like, oh, that's not a great tip, is it? But when you need to work at this, because people's minds will be dragging them all over the place, especially during COVID. Have you got any
Yeah.
tips on? Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, one of the things which I've battled with, just linking it back to the IBM stories, I remember reading the Louis Gerstner book about the CEO turned IBM around, Elephants Can't Jump, I remember. And there was a line in there about, which has been a good line for me at times, and it's been a good line, and it's been a challenging line with my own mental health, is that only the paranoid survive. I remember that, in terms of, you do have to sweat the small stuff. You do have to think things through, and then counteract them. And that's stuck with me for the last sort of 15, 16, 17 years at different points. And it's stuck with me in a good way at times. And it's actually stuck with me in a negative way, that you've overthought things, you've overanalyzed. So,
Yeah.
in a way, it definitely has helped things. But then I've really begun in the last 12 months to kind of like, right, I can't actually deal with that right now. Like, if I want to sit here and worry about every part of my business and my team and my family, my heart will come out of my chest and come
Yeah.
through come through straight into the podcast. So you just have to keep going back to that kind of central bit you're just talking about, like, big deep breath. I'm trying my best. I'm gonna go, keep trying my best every single day. You can't, no such thing as a bad day. You can have a bad hour, you can have a bad conversation, find a way of dusting yourself and make the next conversation, the next thing you're gonna do as well as you possibly can.
Do you think there's anything you could have said to 21-year-old David that A, he would have really listened to, and secondly, that you couldn't have only learned through experience? Because I think a lot of the greatest lessons we learn in life, and it's a real tough spot, this, because probably the greatest lessons I've learned in life, then they're never something that if somebody would have said it, and many people maybe did say it, that I would have listened to or understood. Because I always say there's two types of knowing in this world, right? There's conceptual knowing. We can understand the facts. We can understand what it means to be fit. We could both watch YouTube videos by the greatest fitness trainers in the world, and we'd understand what it means to be fit and what we'd have to eat and how we'd have to sleep and da da da. But it's only when you shift to the other type of knowing, which is experiential knowing, where you actually live that experience and see what's true in your experience, right? So, nobody ever got fit by listening to a talk on fitness. It's only when they get up and move their body. Oh, okay, that's what fitness feels like. When I run, it makes me feel like this. When I eat well and run, it makes me feel like this. Okay. So, how much do you think people can, or in your experience, if you'd have gone back and with all your knowledge now and gone to 21-year-old David and said, look, this is how it's going to be. Don't sweat the small stuff, but understand this, understand that. Do you think we really can teach people these emotionally intelligent skills, or do you think we just have to go through life and kind of figure our way out?
Ooh, yeah, good question. I mean, I employ a team of different ages now, different people in part of their career, and I'm trying to encourage a little bit of a slow down mentality that you do have to go through a few war stories. You do have to lose a few clients. You do have to have a few projects which don't go as well as you want, as well as it makes the good days even better. Look, I wouldn't say too much to myself because I sit where I am now and I've got a beautiful wife and Jenny, three wonderful kids. I have work that I feel like is purpose. And I'm really proud of the storms that we've weathered to get to this particular point. I think I would just say probably make sure you run at a pace that is not going to damage yourself in later life. And I'd say make sure you continue to surround yourself with good people. And I was very blessed and not necessarily, well, I think you create your own luck, but the way I started my career, I was very fortunate to have some really great people around me who've ended up back in the business a couple of decades on in different areas. And then I just had an instinct when I knew somebody was good for me and I was good for them, that they were going to look after me. I was going to help them in some sort of capacity. And I think you need that now. I think a lot of people are jumping jobs really, really quickly. Their tenures are like 18 months or 2 years and they're proud. You can't build long life connections with individuals, managers, executives, or whatever it might be by just jumping ship too quickly. So, not just a message to me, but a message to those people which are listening early on in their life, in their career, is like it doesn't all have to happen overnight. Slow it down. You can learn a lot more by being with a business for 3, 4, 5 years rather than 3, 4, 5 months. And you can take those lessons into whatever you want to do in all the chapters of your career.
I love that because, especially with social media, and a lot of people listen to this will have only known their lives full of social media and smartphones. I'm of an age where I remember pre-internet, let alone pre-smartphones. And the more I see, I'm not on much social media at all, but what I do see on there, everything's so instant gratification, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
the influencers, they've got the fancy clothes and the great car, and yeah, I got it in 5 minutes, and sign up for this, and you'll have it within a week, and do this, and we'll have it in 30 days, and start earning six figures in a month. And we need more people to say, whoa, 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 slow down. The realistic picture is people are working hard for what they've got. There may be a tiny percentage of people that just hit everything's sweet spot and they manage to make a lot of money for whatever reason. But most people, slow, steady, I think wins the race.
100%. I've got a talented individual in art. We've got loads of talented individuals, but there's a high performer in the business today who knows he could be out of the business earning more, but he knows what he's learning here is setting him up for life in terms of working closely with me, working closely with clients, building relationships. I've seen him grow and progress in such a short space of time in the last 12 months. It's exciting to see where he can be in the next 2 to 3 years. So you gotta just make the right call. It doesn't always happen overnight, but we are in the Amazon generation. You order something, it turns up in the same day, right? So
Yeah.
we've got that, and employees have got challenges in this particular space. 100% they have.
Yeah. Just some quick fire questions and then we'll close if that's all right, David. Morning or evening person?
Morning.
Everyone says morning. Every senior person I've interviewed in here said morning.
Excited by the evening. Like I can't
I
look at the
know, I know.
and go, oh my God, I'm a dad. Like, I've got three boys. Like, no, no, no. It's morning. Get up, own the day, get the running, get the quick, walk or listen or whatever it might be. Just yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
cool. Prefer emails or phone calls?
Phone calls. I
Favorite
went on.
food?
I went on. I'll quickly tell you. I went on holiday for 5 days. Turned my phone
Saw
off.
that post. Mm,
Yeah, and what was most interesting, I maybe 1,000 notifications, but only
mm,
four missed calls. Two of them were sales calls. And like nobody's calling each other anymore.
yeah.
100% phone calls.
Okay. Favorite food?
Curry.
Nice. Favorite book?
I Simon Sinek, Start with Why. That changed my life reading that
Yeah.
100%.
That's who said the axe sharpening thing.
Did he? Yeah,
Yeah.
he's done
Nice, nice. Guilty pleasure.
a nice cold beer on a Friday night after a crazy week and just going, is my business better than it was last Friday compared to now? 100%.
Okay. If you could invite anyone over for dinner, you can have more than one person if you want. Alive or dead, who would it be?
I'd have Winston Churchill and Barack Obama around the table. That I love. I believe in the power of communication, and we need. You can have a great idea, but unless you can have the ability to communicate it. And I remember being in my twenties, analysing all of the speeches they ever did, saw patterns in them, and I just thought we're missing that kind of statesmanship. That kind
Yeah,
of state. That kind of leader on the planet right now.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
100%, I'd have them around and see what they think about what's going on.
Yeah, I remember one of the great things Obama said once was, "You don't have to be disagreeable to disagree."
Oh, I like that. I also like his when he was asked a question about his kids, what he wanted them from the world was find a purpose and that they're kind. That was the two things which
Yeah,
he
perfect.
really wanted. And that kindness bit, is a big thing to Jenny and me and my wife and our kids, and indeed the business. Do great stuff. Don't worry about friction, but just be kind at the same time.
Well, you are doing great stuff. 8 billion ideas is amazing. It's literally going to change the world and the future of the world as well, the amount of kids you're impacting. So, all the best with that. David, thanks so much for joining me today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, mate. Thank
Thank,
you.
thank you.